Attention, duped masses!
You're listening to Media Monarchy with James Evan Pilato.
Sinking Snopes, media purification, and spy patents. Plus this day in history with the Afghan War Diary and our Song of the Day by Taki Monster on your Morning Monarchy for July 25th, 2017. I'm James Evan Pilato for MediaMonarchy.com. Welcome to another blast of listener-supported media brought to you by you, streaming live, as always, Monday through Friday at MediaMonarchy.com/listen. Click that link. It'll open in your VLC, your iTunes, any player, independent, non-commercial, alternative media. And we are brought to you by you. And a huge thanks to our latest patron at patreon.com/MediaMonarchy. They have the mysterious name of Dragon77, which I love. And a huge thanks, Dragon77, for taking the plunge and going to Patreon and giving us that little bit of money that we need each and every month that we can budget on. It keeps us moving and grooving. Patreon, we've got PayPal, we've got the post office box, we got Bitcoin, any number of ways you can help support our work. And like I say, you can give a little, I can give a lot. Also thanks to the Truth Seeker app and RadioConfluence.com. So yesterday, I should have made another episode of Good News Next Week. Except, something pissed me off. You've heard me talk about our service Organics to You. We've been getting local, in-season, organic, local food delivered to the door. It's a service here in Portland, Oregon. You might have a similar service in your area that hopefully utilizes local, organic farms in season. And it's basically every Monday shows up on the door. The times have gotten a little stranger and a little more far-flung, and maybe that's because the city's getting busier. Hopefully, maybe they have more business as well. But after Pump Up the Volume yesterday, I went downstairs to go check our delivery, and most of the extras had all been stolen off our porch. So you can basically get the box of food, and we add in a couple of extras. So 2 dozen eggs, a loaf of organic bread, and 2 organic energy bars, all stolen off our front porch. We've been getting this service for nearly 8 years, and that's the first time that has ever happened, and it's another sign that I'm just pretty burnt with this town. And that's why I call it Peak Portland. We have achieved Peak Portland. I've never had food stolen off of my porch in my neighborhood. So, needless to say, I didn't really feel real happy or, like, good newsy. And I couldn't slap a fake smile on my face. I've actually had someone say, "You didn't actually look happy in that Good News Next Week episode." And there was one where I wasn't. So instead, I got high and watched Kids in the Hall and took a nap yesterday. How do you like that? Oh, Peak Portland. Each day of your Morning Monarchy, we focus in on a different area of the news. Monday is world news. That means Tuesday is tech. Some folks call it Tech Tuesday. We like to call it Cyber Space War. And all the stories you're going to see, you can find on the tweets using hashtag Cyberspace War, and the dozen or so stories that we have handpicked for your edification today and your edumacation, you can find on the tweets. We post them out about an hour before showtime, so if you are listening live, you can follow along live. Let's glance at the breaking lamestream news before we dive into our cyberspace war news. Trump renews Twitter attack on Attorney General Jeff Sessions. Yeah, you think Jeff Sessions is bad? Wait till we get Giuliani in there. The Senate's supposed to start the process of repealing Obamacare in a few hours, and the process is still in chaos. And yes, little Hitler Youth had a rally right down in my home state of West Virginia yesterday. Actually, I had no heads up on that. My parents didn't mention anything about it, that the old Trump train was going to be rolling into southern West Virginia. So they built this Boy Scouts retreat, this jamboree thing, several years ago, and it's in cooperation with Bechtel. So Boy Scouts and Bechtel pretty much took over southern part of West Virginia. And when I've mentioned it before, I've unfortunately also added, I imagine it's going to be the future site of child abuse allegations. So Trump rolls up to the Boy Scouts Jamboree in Glen Jean, West Virginia, where I used to do a little bit of a carpool drop-off. I believe that was the third and final carpool transition that we used to make in the morning when we had to go to Christian school. So I don't know, I mean, he basically just turned it into a big Hitler Youth political rally, which is exactly what's happening with this. You thought Obama had a cult of personality around him. You ain't seen nothing yet. Now, as we've been doing these last several days, fortunately, my lamestream news now has a fact check on the side. Let's get our fact checks, kids, which will pretty much head us right into our lead story on your Cyberspace War Morning Monarchy. Again, we are streaming live, MediaMonarchy.com/listen. Hope you share the link. Tell a friend. Will Philly's murder rate be the highest this decade, as Attorney General Jeff Sessions said? PolitiFact. White House video misleads on CBO healthcare estimates. Washington Post. Hollywood life flip-flops on Selena Gomez, the weekend birthday celebration. Site caught lying again. Gossip Cop. Waste Management to offer dead body pickup service in response to proposed healthcare changes. Snopes. And selling insurance across state lines. That's from Fact Check. So, speaking of Snopes, we can head on to Motherboard. Snopes.com, one of the internet's first and most famous fact-checking websites, said yesterday that a previous website hosting vendor continues to hold the Snopes.com website hostage, and the site is in danger of shutting down if it doesn't raise $500,000. They started a GoFundMe campaign, and spoiler alert, the bad news is they already beat it. They already hit it. They have already met their goal. $500,000 in less than 24 hours. A lot of people love having their fake news. According to the letter on GoFundMe titled, Please Help Save Snopes.com, and on the new website, SaveSnopes.com, the contract between Snopes and Proper Media, a private company that manages the Snopes.com web property, ended earlier this year, but Proper Media won't release the site back to Snopes. Snopes claims, as a result, Snopes can't put advertising on their website, which is goddamn hilarious, because isn't that one of the whole problems of tracing around fake news? It's all the ads. You got to cut off their ad support with Google AdSense. Seems a tad, I don't know, hypocritical. Because advertising is Snopes' only revenue stream, the site is now in danger of shutting down. The campaign part of a legal dispute that's been happening all year, as we've been reporting for you earlier this year. In May, Proper Media filed a complaint against Snopes owner David Mickelson and corporate co-owner of Snopes, Bardav Incorporated, alleging breach of contract and civil conspiracy. The case involves unlawful jockeying for ownership and control of the fact-checking website Snopes.com. But while Snopes is built entirely around the concepts of transparency and truth, its founder, defendant David Mickelson, has engaged in a lengthy scheme of concealment and subterfuge to gain control of the company and drain its profits. Bardav filed a cross-complaint against Proper Media in June, also alleging breach of contract. Proper Media failed to perform its contractual and legal obligations, and Bardav eventually terminated the contract in accordance with its terms. Proper Media is now wrongfully withholding money owed to Bardav and effectively holding Snopes' website hostage by preventing Bardav from moving the website, advertising, and other back-end functions to another service provider. According to the original complaint, Proper Media acquired 50% of Snopes after a contentious divorce between David and Barbara Mickelson in July 2016. After the divorce proceedings resolved, Ms. Mickelson sold her equity in Snopes to Proper Media. Propaganda Media. Motherboard contacted Proper Media and corresponded with Carl Cronenberger via email. He's the attorney for Proper Media who filed the complaint against Mickelson and Bardav. Cronenberger rejects the version of events described in the Please Help Save Snopes.com GoFundMe letter. He pointed out that Proper Media is a 50% co-owner of Bardav, and that Mickelson faces pending lawsuits alleging gross financial, technical, and corporate mismanagement. It is the height of irony that in today's post, Mr. Mickelson attempts to rewrite history by saying Snopes began as a small one-person effort in 1994, completely erasing his co-founder, former partner, and wife of many years, Barbara Mickelson, who owned 50% of Bardav before selling her interest to Proper Media in 2016. I bet Mr. Snope will get a new girlfriend soon. I think he already has a new girlfriend. And as we went over this story earlier in the year, it seemed a really gross personal story. You could kind of look at the photos, and it basically looked like he dumped his fat, old, ugly wife and got a hot new younger one. Booted her out of the company and pretty much took it over. Now, does that mean they're full of lies just because they act reprehensibly and shittily to each other? I don't know. So there's that spoiler. They already made their money. And you're listening to The Morning Monarchy, truly independent, non-commercial alternative media, started as a one-man operation. And we hit the web as Media Monarchy in September of 2005. Let's continue our Tech Tuesday edition. Just as we are getting rolling, and we've continued to watch the situation over in Israel, as they've now decided to remove the metal detectors it had placed at the entrance to the Al-Aqsa Mosque in occupied East Jerusalem. Because that was the whole problem, trying to meet Muslims' demands and remove the metal detectors. So, in an effort to do that, they removed all those metal detectors and replaced them with a bunch of surveillance cameras.
Unarmed Palestinians are pushed back by Israeli security forces using stun grenades and rubber-coated steel bullets. The protesters gathered at Lions Gate in occupied East Jerusalem after the Israeli Security Cabinet announced it would remove metal detectors and some security cameras at the entrance of the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound. They said they would replace them with enhanced security measures. The specifics weren't detailed. Leading figures in the Palestinian religious community say they want a return to a situation pre-July 14th when the crisis began. Whether the Palestinian street will accept any security measures at the entrance to the Al-Aqsa compound is unlikely.
All
of the groups will meet and we will discuss, but we will not accept anything that has taken place since July 14th.
Complicating the diplomatic efforts to resolve the crisis was an incident in Jordan where an Israeli embassy staff member killed 2 Jordanians in a dispute at the embassy compound. Jordan initially refused to allow embassy workers to evacuate. A high-level Israeli security official travelled to Jordan to resolve the crisis. However, it's unclear whether a deal was struck between Israel and Jordan that allowed for the removal of some security measures. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu thanked Jordan's King Abdullah and the US Middle East envoy Jason Greenblatt, who arrived in Israel on Monday to help resolve the crisis. Whatever deal has been done to remove the newly installed additional security measures, it's clear that Palestinian anger on the street will continue. What we've been hearing throughout the last 10 days is the Palestinians will not accept any security measures at the entrance to the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound. Imran Khan, Al Jazeera, occupied East Jerusalem.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's cabinet voted to remove the metal detector gates after a meeting lasting several hours, convening for a second time on Monday. The director of the Al-Aqsa Mosque said today, on Tuesday, that the move does not fulfill the demands of Muslim worshippers as the security cameras remained. Another Al-Aqsa official said the Palestinians would never accept the current status unless everything that was added after July 14th was removed. It's only 9 days, 10 days that we're talking about. Massive, pretty massive changes going on. So that's a little bit of geopolitics in our cyberspace war. Probably each week, and it's not necessarily the same subject, as I was going to say earlier, each day of the week, different area of the news. Monday's world news, Tuesday's tech, Wednesday's health, Thursday's weird, and Friday's media. There's probably one story each week that I get sent to me the most, just again and again and again. And there is no doubt in my mind that this week, that story takes us to Wisconsin. 3 Square Market Company has announced they will be the first to microchip employees, and to those concerned, have no fear. 3 Square Market wants all to know that they won't be installing GPS trackers on those microchips. 3 Square Market is a company that designs software for break room markets. And they're about to become the first in the U.S. to offer microchip implants to its employees, taking technology to an uncomfortable level for some. This being written by Don Luger over on Activist Post. We actually have a more local report that we'll go to after this. So we can get the crazy conspiracy theory report first, and then we'll go get the real fake news from the local regional place. According to their press release, the program will be optional for employees, and the company will begin implementation on August 1st. That would be a week from today. The RFID chips, that's radio frequency identification, will allow workers to enter the building, purchase items in the break room micro market, log into their computers, and use the copy machine, but those certainly are not the limits of the chip. Eventually, this technology will become standardized, allowing you to use this as your passport, public transit, all purchasing opportunities, etc. 3 Market Square CEO Todd Westby said, "If that doesn't sound like the conspiracy of having a completely microchipped human race is right around the corner, then you're probably missing the point." The company begins to begin the microchipping with volunteers first. It is expecting over 50 staff members to be voluntarily chipped with the technology that's no larger than a small grain of rice. Employees will have the chip implanted between the thumb and forefinger underneath the skin. Each chip costs $300, and of course the company will pay for it. Westby said the data is both encrypted and secure, and that he also has a bridge for sale. But that isn't reassuring to those who are opposed to the microchipping of human beings. Many see it as a big, huge conspiracy theory, although it's completely popular. No one is required to get the microchip at 3 Square Company yet. Now, as is mentioned in this article on Activist Post, Hollywood director and documentary filmmaker, the late great Aaron Russo, said in an interview that he was approached by Nicholas Rockefeller and asked to join the Council on Foreign Relations. Russo refused, but he asked Rockefeller, what's the point of all this? You have all the money in the world. You have all the power you need. What's the point? What's the end goal? Rockefeller replied, and Aaron Russo paraphrased, the end goal is to get everybody chipped, to control the whole society and have the bankers and the elite people control the world. So it's not activist post's job or my job to tell you what to think or feel about microchipping. Surely the fact that the Rothschilds just purchased cryptocurrency has nothing to do with the boost in microchipping technology, and in the attempts to soften the blow of receiving a chip, it's not difficult to see why some are balking at the RFID chip. Right? It's only a crazy conspiracy theory before it becomes a crazy conspiracy fact, right? So that one was from Activist Post. Let's just go to KSTP up in Wisconsin for more on microchipping the cattle. Come on, technology, work for me.
All right, this Wisconsin company, this company says it's about to become the first in the U.S. to offer microchip implants to its employees. You heard that right. Microchip implants under the skin. Josh Rosenthal joins us live from just up the hall to explain this. He's in the building with us right now. Josh, what's this all about?
That's right. So, Lindsay, just outside of the studio here, we've got a few of these vending machines. Now, we all know how these work, right? You walk up, you put your dollar in, you get your bag of chips. Well, as I learned today, these machines are quickly becoming very old-fashioned, and in fact, just how old-fashioned may surprise you. At 3 Square Market in River Falls, a team of programmers designed software for break room markets, like this one. Believe it or not, this is the reason they're about to do this to more than 50 of their employees.
It's the next thing that's inevitably going to happen, and we want to be a part of it.
The concept is pretty simple. Just like how you can buy something nowadays using your phone, what if you could use a microchip inside your hand instead? Todd, you're going to show us how this could potentially work.
Yes, basically what this is considered is a break room market in an office complex. We'll come up, scan the item, we'll hit pay with credit card, and it's asking to swipe my proximity payment now. I'll hold my hand up, just like the cell phone, and it will pay for my product.
Instead of a credit card,
correct, because my microchip is now my credit card.
More than 50 3 Square Market employees are having them implanted starting next week. Not only can they buy stuff with them, they'll also be able to use the chips to get in the front door and log on to their computers. Each chip costs $300. The company's picking up the tab. The chip goes between your thumb and forefinger, and CEO Todd Westby says the data is both encrypted and secure. So if I'm one of your employees and I've got this chip in my hand, you won't know, hey, Josh is slacking off. I can tell because I'm reading this chip.
No, there's no GPS tracking at all.
Employees here aren't required to get the chip. One of the ones choosing to do so, however, just so happens to be former North Star player and current Edina hockey coach, Kurt Giles. If somebody told you back in the day when you're flying around the ice playing for the North Stars that you're going to have a chip implanted in your hand, you're going to use it to pay for stuff, you're going to use it to get in and out of buildings, what would you have told that person?
I probably would have thought a chip tooth or a chip of ice, but not a chip that has the technology that we're talking about today.
Okay, now, in case you're wondering, Lindsay, each one of these chips, it's about the size of a single grain of rice. It's tiny, just one little grain of rice. And now, get this, if you get one of these implanted into your hand and you want to get rid of it, you know how you do that? For real, they tell me you just pop it out.
It's almost hard to believe. Did they offer you one?
They did. They very much wanted me to come back next week when they're putting them in employees and get one. Still not sold, but I'm a little closer to being sold than I was when I walked in.
Faster from the vending machine.
Sure would.
All right, now we need to upgrade the vending machines.
Yeah, really.
All right, thank you, Josh.
All right.
All right, this may be the first time a U.S. company is using the technology, but it's already being used in Europe. A company in Sweden offered more than 100 employees the opportunity to get those microchips earlier this year. The company Epicenter Stockholm says phone and internet browsing history poses more of a threat than the chip.
Uh-huh. We know pretty well that microchipping is pretty old technology. iris scanning is pretty much going to be what it is, and we've got stories about iris scanning coming up at the end of this episode. You are listening to Your Morning Monarchy. It's a Tech Tuesday, July 25th, 2017. Now, when I worked back at the corporate radio station, there was, much like they're describing in this clip, and again, everything we say and play, you can get the videos, get the show notes, you can see that whole ridiculous report we just listened to. I'm sure most of these places, and a lot of places people work, there's now the little garbage break room. And in that break room is where you can buy a bunch of chemical, corporate, poison food. I guess I shouldn't have been shocked by how many people ate that garbage at the commercial radio station, but I was, because I was just coming from the organic grocery store. So this is all in an effort to just make it easier for you to buy some poison chemical chips? A Zagnut, perhaps? Wisconsin company to implant microchips in employees. Perhaps also making comments on the intelligence of hockey players. Now, of course, as we've noted, I think I even saw it on the sidebar of the lamestream news, it's pretty much obvious that they've all had their heads bashed in. Oh, my good God. So, yeah, pretty much, as we've said before, we'll say it again, like the Manic Street Preacher said, if you tolerate this, your children will be next. I couldn't think of a better way to illustrate becoming a complete slave. It would be one thing if this was some kind of high-tech gig. And of course, like this local news station's going to know that. They've rolled this out in Brazil. They've rolled it out at nightclubs. They've rolled it out at amusement parks. But this is old technology. They're getting you used to the idea now of kind of the older technology. Because what? Everybody's got their fondle slab in their pocket all the freaking time. What's the difference? So what's the difference if you got a little microchip on you? What could possibly go wrong? What's the difference if you don't have any cash and it's all zeros and ones? What could possibly go wrong? Well, Visa recently announced its new cashless challenge program, which is bribing $10,000 to restaurants willing to transition into accepting only digital payments. As the largest credit card processor in the U.S., it's no surprise Visa's spearheading this campaign. Under the guise of increasing transparency and efficiency, Visa has partnered with governments around the world to help convert financial systems into cashless models. But their real incentive is the billions of dollars in extra transaction fees it would generate. Now, I don't know if anybody remembers this, if you were maybe working at a restaurant or working at a place back in the late 90s. It was the complete opposite. You got charged extra for the privilege of using Visa and credit card operations. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't let you run your credit card. You haven't spent at least $10. That's how it was originally at the last cafe I worked at. So much like the drug war or any of the other phony wars, the bastards who get to lord over the prohibition of things get to flip a switch and get to exploit it all. We are declaring war on cash, Visa spokesman Andy Geralt, G-E-R-L-T, proudly proclaimed after the program was announced. The food-based small businesses Visa is targeting are among those that benefit most from accepting cash from customers. When transactions are for amounts less than $10, like I just told you, the fees charged cut significantly into profits. Only 28% of food trucks currently accept credit card payments because of the huge losses they incur from them. The bribe from Visa may seem appealing up front, but will be mostly paid back to them over the next few years in fees alone. Much like the $300 they'll spend to get you the chip implanted, right? They'll make it back. The house always wins. The smartest move is to not play the game. Liz Garner, vice president of the Merchant Advisory Group, which represents over 100 of the largest businesses in the U.S., explains some of the hurdles faced when dealing with card networks. For many businesses, both large and small, the cost of accepting plastic cards and other forms of electronic payments is one of their highest operating costs. Most businesses have no qualms about paying reasonable fees for business services, and they do so every day for such items as cleaning service, security systems, Wi-Fi, and other basic needs. However, they do have the ability to negotiate for those services in a fair and transparent marketplace, which they do not with the two major credit and debit card networks. Credit card and debit card fees are dictated directly by Visa and MasterCard and are imposed on the majority of merchants in a take-it-or-leave-it fashion. Most businesses feel that failing to accept these major card brands is not a competitive option, so they continue accepting electronic payments even though the costs are squeezing their businesses. And the inflexible acceptance rules fly in the face of free market enterprise. This ongoing push for a cashless society in Europe, Asia, and the Americas is about much more than just phasing out paper money. It is about central planners solidifying control over the public's wealth, or lack of wealth. This ongoing merger of corporate and government interests is the definition of crony capitalism. This is going to be a huge mistake. This is going to be a huge disaster. And as was just now noted in the chat, I also think Bitcoin is part of the cashless society. It's starting to look that way, isn't it? It is certainly starting to look that way. I glanced at an article yesterday that I just saw go by on the tweets. 11 things every anarchist should be doing right now. And it also talked about not going cashless. We just need to talk about going bankless and not using these banks at all. We stop using their terrible news services. We stop using their terrible food services. We stop using their terrible everything. Buy gold, barter, gold and bullets. Well, we know what the powers that shouldn't be. We know what their god is. It's gold, oil, and drugs. But they give us phony baloney things to believe in. Little boogeymen hiding under our beds. So we had the Snopes. We had a little bit of microchipping. We've had a little bit of cashless society. Let's hop back to the world of fake news, shall we? And a little bit of a holy hexes story for your cyberspace war. A New York Times reporter not only gave money to a child pornographer, but did business with him and even signed on to an illegal porn website as a member and an administrator. Documents unsealed show in federal criminal proceeding in Nashville. Now, this article actually goes back a ways, but this is a really interesting one because this describes Kurt Eichenwald. So this story actually goes back to September 14th, 2007, nearly a decade ago, long before we were saying anything about fake news, and we didn't have words like Pizzagate or Pedogate yet. But we sure as hell knew about the Franklin scandal. We sure as hell know about the Catholic Church. We sure as hell know about the Boy Scouts. New York Times reporter was a member of an illegal underage porn site, but he was only there posing as an online predator. That reporter is Kurt Eichenwald. You might know that name because he has, I believe, successfully sued people for sending him flashing images. He has some sort of epilepsy. I believe also some of our listeners in the chat right now have been banned and blocked by Kurt Eichenwald. I think our friend Inky showed the screen grab in the chat yesterday. You've been blocked by Kurt Eichenwald. He actually quit the New York Times in October 2006. He already had a lot of explaining to do earlier in 2007 about his conduct working on the Justin Barry story when it was revealed in March that without telling his editors, he gave $2,000 to Barry, an 18-year-old who spent 5 years making child porn of himself when Eichenwald first contacted him in 2005. By then, Justin Barry was an adult recruiting minors to perform sexually on webcams. After discovering this, Eichenwald found Barry a lawyer who took him to the Department of Justice and got him immunity from prosecution in exchange for turning state's evidence against 4 mostly gay and young men. All were eventually charged and convicted of making and distributing porn depicting underage teen boys. After Eichenwald wrote a blockbuster story about Barry for the Times, his journalism techniques aroused controversy in press circles. Even so, no one knew about the $2,000 check, and most of the media feted him. This is a really interesting story. And again, as is noted in the chat, Kurt Eichenwald is some of your favorite Nazi war criminals. And this is what we see. What about Mark Thompson, who used to work for the BBC, who now works for the New York Times? Worked at the BBC during the reign of terror of Jimmy Savile and the rest. That's the thing we probably didn't mention last week about the BBC pay scandal. All that money being paid to what have been noted as serial child abusers. You're listening to the Morning Monarchy. And during a press briefing at the Department of Justice, U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions revealed that President Donald Trump ordered the DOJ to go after organized transnational cybercrime organizations operated on the darknet. Donald Trump gave us several directives. One is to dismantle transnational criminal organizations. That's what we're announcing today. Dismantling of the largest dark website in the world by far.
You can only access if you mask your identity and your location. And it's called dark not just because these sites are intentionally hidden. It's also dark because what's sold on many of them, illegal weapons, stolen identities, child pornography, and large amounts of narcotics. Today, the Department of Justice announces the takedown of the dark web market Alpha Bay. This is the largest dark market web place takedown in world history. An Alpha Bay staff member claimed that this group serviced more than 40,000 illegal vendors, people who sell illegal products, for more than 200,000 customers. By far, most of this activity was in illegal drugs, pouring fuel on the fire of the national drug epidemic.
Now remember, democracy dies in the darknet. Thanks for that joke from the chat. You can watch that entire 25-minute press conference, if you can stomach it, with Jeff Sessions talking about Alpha Bay. Now, you might recall, Alpha Bay's alleged founder, Alexander Sezes, was arrested on July 5th in Thailand at his home outside Bangkok and is alleged to have committed suicide shortly thereafter in a Thai jail on July 12th. We've covered all those stories for you. I don't want to speculate too much about who's allowed to get away with what when they do which. But it kind of seems like if you're in the government or if you're in the higher echelons of corporate-controlled media, you're allowed to be a murderous, pedophile? But anyone else, it's all going to be demonized. And you probably even heard this come out of other people's, well-meaning people who don't really know what's really going on in the world. Oh, it's all that child porn on the internet I'm worried about. That stuff's the really bad stuff. It's like, man, they're probably just using the boogeyman of a lot of that to demonize the web in general. It's always, oh, what about the children? Won't somebody think of the children? And what do we find when we bust open these sites? We find they're run by the feds. Not taking part seems to be, again, about the only winning move we can make. Let's continue to look at our cyberspace war news this morning. A total of 3,918 illegal websites were shut down by China's internet watchdogs from April to June, the Cyberspace Administration of China said in a statement over the weekend. The websites included those that published content that jeopardized national security, those that spread violence, vulgarity, or ungrounded rumors. Up to 316 cases related to illegal websites were handed to judicial organs in the same period. More than 810,000 illicit cyber accounts were also closed in the second quarter of the year. Moreover, 443 websites were summoned by cyber watchdogs for lawbreaking, while 172 received warnings as part of cyber law enforcement that has been highlighted over the months, again, according to the statement. China shuts down 3,918 illegal websites in the second quarter of 2017 alone. Now we hop to the Global Times out of China. In the past few weeks, a series of new restrictions on online media has been released. A few video streaming sites had their content removed, and shows and forums are being closely monitored to purify the online environment. There have been both positive and negative reactions to the restrictions. Meanwhile, some alterations are emerging to fill the void, such as new shows from state-run media and companies. Last week, Chinese netizens found that virtually all of the movies they saved on video hosting site Bilibili, Bilibili.com, had vanished. Photos shared widely on social media showed that TV series and movies across all categories had either gone missing or had been replaced with gray squares. Bilibili, a hugely popular site with Chinese millennials, was originally a place to watch Japanese anime and other such niche shows, but gradually it became home to all kinds of shows, movies, and a community of pop culture enthusiasts. In recent years, official organs, such as the Communist Youth League of China and the China Central Television, even started posting videos on the website in order to attract younger generation and increase their influence. Bilibili explained last week on Sina that to ensure that their content of the website is in all accordance with the relevant laws and regulations, they will review all the videos uploaded by users. During the review, some videos will be inaccessible, and after that, unlicensed videos will be removed and the approved ones will be uploaded again. A statement posted on the website of China's TV and film watchdog in June said that some websites had not obtained a license from the Administration for Audiovisual Services and published content about politics and public affairs against government rules, as well as other quote-unquote negative content. In the past few weeks, similar restrictions have been unveiled across a few cultural and entertainment fields in China, arousing controversy and discussion. China's online media purification drive is changing millennials' lifestyles. They are constructing the lifestyles, controlling what you think. Because if they can control what you see, what you do, what you interact with, it's only going to follow that it controls what you think. China has also, this is the hat trick of China stories. And remember, who loves China? Who called China the model nation? The powers that shouldn't be. China's ramped up surveillance measures in Xinjiang, home to much of its Muslim minority population, this according to reports from Radio Free Asia. Authorities sent out a notice over a week ago instructing citizens to install a surveillance app on their phones and are conducting spot checks in the region to ensure that residents have it. The notice was written in Uyghur and Chinese, was sent by WeChat to residents in Urumqi, Xinjiang's capital. Android users were instructed to scan the QR code in order to install the Jingwang app that would, as the authorities claimed, automatically detect terrorist and illegal religious videos, images, ebooks, and electronic documents stored in the phone. If illegal content was detected, users would be ordered to delete them. Users who deleted or did not install the app would be detained for up to 10 days. China is force installing spyware onto Muslim citizens' phones, so of course to monitor them. But, you know, I'm not a Muslim, so I don't give a shit. This episode is getting scarier and scarier and scarier the more I go through it. Now let's head over to Sweden, who might be experiencing the worst known governmental leak ever. Here's just a pull quote. Sweden's transport agency moved all of its data to the cloud, apparently unaware that there is no cloud, only somebody else's computer. In doing so, it exposed and leaked every conceivable top-secret database, fighter pilots, SEAL team operators, police suspects, people under witness relocation, names, photos, and home addresses. The list is just getting started. The responsible director has been found guilty in criminal court of the whole affair and sentenced to the harshest sentence ever seen in a Swedish government. Docked half a month's paycheck. This is what's happening in Sweden right now. Clueless agency moved everything to the cloud. And actually, this story was shared with me from someone who said, hey, they must be listening to Media Monarchy because they said there's no such thing as the cloud. There's only someone else's computer. Now, I did not come up with that phrase. If I could cite exactly where I grabbed it from, I would. Just like when we end the episodes, I say, I got that from Jello Biafra. I like to cite my sources. And I can't really think of a much better truism going on right now. Sears Holding Corp kicked off its biggest rally in almost 2 months after agreeing to sell its Kenmore appliances on Amazon.com, a reassuring sign for a retailer that's been rattled by e-commerce upheaval. In addition to offering the Kenmore lineup on Amazon's site, Sears will integrate its smart appliances with Alexa, the tech giant's speech-activated assistant. That means the company's air conditioners and other devices will respond to voice commands. The announcement brings fresh hope that Sears can adapt to a rapidly shifting retail landscape. Department store chains have been hard hit by sluggish mall traffic and online shopping. By teaming up with Amazon, Sears brings new life to its more than century-old Kenmore name and opens up a new sales channel. We speculated what Sears could do to turn around their misfortunes on New World Next Week and also on these shows. We speculated the thing to do would be more DIY, more Etsy, create the things that let people create things for themselves, but it looks like they did not take our advice and decided to can't beat them, join them, and they will help spy on you. So Sears has decided the only way to survive is to be absorbed into the Borg, into the gaping maw of corporate surveillance culture. Mac users beware. Law enforcement agents are investigating malware that's been affecting Mac computers. Now, we always used to think, oh, there's no bugs in Macs at all. That was always one of the best parts about them. Then they started worrying about making TV things and shows and radio stations and devices with red and yellow and blue colors, and they went down the toilet. The malicious code appears to be purely for targeted surveillance. This according to Forbes, and we're grabbing this from the Sacramento Bee. The malware, called Fruit Fly, allows hackers to jump into webcams of affected computers and take screenshots. The malware also has the capability to take over the entire computer, according to CBS Sacramento. Patrick Wardle, ex-NSA analyst, uncovered Fruit Fly after registering one of the domains the hackers had planned to use as a backup. After doing so, Wardle could see victim IP addresses, and 90% of them were located in the U.S. This doesn't look like cybercrime-type behavior. There were no ads, no keyloggers, or ransomware. Its features had looked like they were actions that would support interactivity. It had the ability to alert the attacker when users were active on the computer. It could simulate mouse clicks and keyboard events. They do say the malware appears to be old, as the comments in the code indicate that the spyware was running before 2014. Malwarebytes.com first detected Fruit Fly in January when it was apparently targeting biomedical research centers. Apple released an update that protected against infections, but variants of the malware can still leave some Macs vulnerable. And I wonder about my poor little aging Macs. So, our buddy Ray Vahi's comment about our next story actually holds just as well for the previous story that we just talked about. A newly discovered patent application shows Facebook has come up with plans to potentially spy on its users through the phone or laptop cameras, even when they're not turned on. This could allow it to send tailored advertisements to its nearly 2 billion suckers. The application, filed in 2014, says Facebook has thought of using imaging components, like a camera, to read the emotions of its users and send them catered content like videos, photos, and ads. Reading from their press release, computing devices such as laptops, mobile phones, and tablets increasingly include at least one, and often more than one, imaging component, such as a digital camera. If the social media giants see you are attentive, it could start displaying advertisements. If you're sad, it might send you something to cheer you up. You could start seeing interactive content when you look bored. I guess this begs the question, who's the real Tamagotchi here? Who's the real virtual pet? Who is the real slave being held back by a device? Facebook patent application describes spying on users through their webcams, and we know it has been documented. They have performed experiments on their users to see if they can make you depressed. Hey, let's see if we could fill their feed with nothing but a bunch of sad war and horrible death news. And it worked. So again, as our buddy Ray Vahi notes, you might want to cover up that lens, folks. We also might want to cover up our own lenses, you know, the ones on our eyes, because that's really how they're going to track and trace us. We've talked about it. They're rolling it out at Delta airports, I believe. So as we wrap up this Cyberspace War edition of Your Morning Monarchy, we head to The Independent. And there's a reason you should be terrified of iris scanners and iPhone facial recognition. But maybe it's not the reason you think. Independent writer says he hates passwords, forgets them, loses them, agonizes over someone stealing them. At work, I don't change them when the system prompts me to. I get locked out of my computer and spend hours trying to regain access. The help desk hates me. They also say they're a queen of the caps lock blunder. Blah, 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 blah. Last week, a high street lender, TSB, announced that it was becoming the first bank in Europe to introduce iris recognition on its mobile banking app, allowing you to transfer money, check your balance, and make payments quite literally in the blink of an eye. To use the service, customers register by holding their phone camera up to their face for a few seconds. Experts have said that iris scanning is a far more secure form of biometric authentication than, say, voice recognition, fingerprints, or toe prints, which is apparently a thing, and that it's fast, efficient, and easy for both you and your friendly criminal next door. Earlier this year, German hacking collective called the Chaos Computer Club, which incidentally also has a history of conquering the iPhone's fingerprint sensor, fooled Samsung's iris scanner not with the assistance of cryptic programming language and unparalleled brain power, but with a simple photograph. The kind you can print off Facebook in a humble contact lens. It was the second security blow dealt to the South Korean conglomerate in the space of a few months after its facial recognition technology, also designed to allow users to unlock their phones password-free, was tricked almost immediately after they launched it. Slightly creepy incidents like this, coupled with a deluge of warnings about cybersecurity, devastating attacks like WannaCry and Petya, and even dystopian TV series like Black Mirror, should all serve as a critical warning to us. They should remind us that technology and hackers are engaged in a global game of cat and mouse, during which the fat and resourceful feline is regularly clawing huge chunks out of the ignorant rodent's tail, but inexplicably, we don't care. We're so obsessed with using the idea of breakneck technology to innovate and reach maximum convenience that we're losing sight of the fact that a good old alphanumeric code, changed every couple of weeks and committed to memory, is a far better way of protecting what's essentially your whole identity. Just don't use your birthday and your pet's names. That's rookie. The simplest way to grasp the risks associated with biometrics is to think about this. Passwords are secret. Body parts are not. And that's the last thing I can say about it. You can find all those stories and more, always included in the show notes, and I'd love you to continue to doing the research yourself. And if you've got technology news you'd love to share with us, you can tweet them out using hashtag cyberspacewar. If you are not on the tweets, and if you have made it to July of 2017 without ever signing up, good job. Don't do it now. The nice thing is, you do not have to have a Twitter account to look at any of my tweets or any of the news. You can click all of it and see all of it and continue all of it. If you don't even want to broach the website, you can just do it classic style. You can email me, james@MediaMonarchy.com. We're going to go out with brand new music out of LA producer and DJ Taki Monster for a very Cyberspace War Day song of the day. But of course, let's take a look at this day in history, my friends. July 25th, 1788, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart completes his Symphony 40 in G minor. July 25th, 1837, the first commercial use of an electrical telegraph is successfully demonstrated in London by William Cooke and Charles Wheatstone. July 25th, 1925, Telegraph Agency of the Soviet Union is established. You know it better as TASS, T-A-S-S. Jumping into the World War II era, July 25th, 1943, Benito Mussolini is forced out of office by the Grand Council of Fascism and is replaced by Pietro Battolini. July 25th, 1961, in a speech, John F. Kennedy emphasizes that any attack on Berlin is an attack on NATO. Now, does that sound like a guy who was going to end the Federal Reserve and was going to end the wars and was going to do all that great stuff? I don't know. July 25th, 1965, Bob Dylan goes electric at the Newport Folk Festival, signaling a major change in folk and rock music. Some of the people yelled because he was a Judas and he was abandoning the folk ethic. Other people yelled because the sound was terrible. July 25th, 1966, the Supremes' You Can't Hurry Love was released on this day, and in 1967, the Beatles and other UK rock groups urged the British government to legalize marijuana. Their comments were made in a London Times advertisement signed by all four of the Beatles. I have to look that up. I've never actually seen that or even heard about that before. On this day, 50 years ago, the Beatles begged the British government to legalize weed. Who turned them onto it? It was Bob Dylan, as the legend has it. July 25th, 1976, Viking 1 takes the famous Face on Mars photo on this day. July 25th, 1976. 1978 is the birth of Louise Joy Brown. She was the first human to have been born after conception by in vitro fertilization, or, of course, IVF if you're nasty. July 25th, 1980, AC/DC released Back in Black on this day. It was their first album with Brian Johnson as lead singer. On this day in 1983, Metallica's Kill 'Em All was released, their debut album. Now, we were talking earlier about people blocking you on Twitter. My two biggies that I can note are Trent Reznor blocked me on Twitter, and also Roseanne Barr. On this day, July 25th, 1990, Roseanne Barr sang the national anthem in San Diego before a Padres baseball game, and she was booed for her performance. Can you imagine that happening right now in this new jingoistic era we've entered? July 25th, 1993, this day in Israeli aggression, Israel launches a massive attack against Lebanon in what the Israelis call Operation Accountability, and the Lebanese will call it the 7 Days War. 1 year later, July 25th, 1994, Israel and Jordan signed the Washington Declaration. that formally ends the state of war that had existed between those two nations since, 1948. Crazy story. July 25th, 1995. Nina Simone fired a gun at a pair of noisy teenagers playing next door to her home in southern France. She was put on 18 months probation and ordered to seek psychological counseling. What happened, Miss Simone? And finally, on this day, July 25th, 2010, WikiLeaks publishes classified documents about the war in Afghanistan, one of the largest leaks in U.S. military history.
Of course, our top story this morning, the White House blasting the release of over 90,000 U.S. military records on the war in Afghanistan. This is the largest leak in military history. CBS News correspondent Mark Phillips is in London this morning with the latest. Mark, good morning.
Good morning, Erica. Well, this isn't a wiki leak. This is a wiki torrent, a deluge of operational field report logs from units on the ground in Afghanistan, much of it classified and released by the whistleblowing WikiLeaks site. And it paints a very grim picture of the way the war is going. The release contains more than 90,000 reports sent by operational units in Afghanistan from 2004 to the end of 2009, cataloged on the shadowy WikiLeaks website. Among the allegations, that elements of Pakistan's intelligence services, supposed allies of the U.S., have met with Taliban leaders to plot strategy for the insurgency. That death squads have been operating to try to kill Taliban leaders. That the Taliban have been using surface-to-air missiles to target U.S. and allied aircraft. That civilian casualties have been even higher than admitted. In a statement, President Obama's national security advisor, General James Jones, called the leak a threat to national security, which could put the lives of Americans and our partners at risk. WikiLeaks founder told the Guardian newspaper there's no such thing as a fact that shouldn't be public.
It will show the true nature of this war, and then the public from Afghanistan and other nations can see what's really going on and take steps to address the problems.
WikiLeaks released its documents to 3 publications, the New York Times, the Guardian here in Britain, and in Germany to Der Spiegel, the Weekly, ensuring maximum impact on public opinion.
The Afghan War Documents Leak, also called the Afghan War Diary, is the disclosure of a collection of internal U.S. military logs of the war in Afghanistan, which were published by WikiLeaks on July 25th, 2010. The logs consist of over 91,000 Afghan war documents covering the period between January 2004 and December 2009. Most of the documents are classified secret. Now, the question was asked in the chat, was this the Bradley Manning / Chelsea Manning leak? No, it was not. That's pretty much just the collateral murder leak. In June 2010, Guardian journalist Nick Davies and WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange established that the U.S. Army had built a huge database with 6 years of sensitive military intelligence material to which many thousands of U.S. soldiers had access, and some of them had been able to download copies. And WikiLeaks had one copy, which it proposed to publish online via a series of uncensorable global servers. Some of the soldiers were not supposed to have any access as they were not involved in those operations. Now, I don't think the uncensorable global servers thing happened, and that's been always the questionable part of some of these WikiLeaks releases. It is just a leak. They only give us a couple of pages of the tens of thousands of documents. Instead of going big, wide, everything all at once, they go to the regular old fake news outlets. Questions. Published to my own website a decade ago today, July 25th, 2007. A BBC Radio 4 investigation sheds new light on a major subject that's received little historical attention. The conspiracy on behalf of a group of influential power brokers led by Prescott Bush to hold a fascist coup in America. BBC says Bush's grandfather planned fascist coup in U.S. That's one of 3 articles published to my website a decade ago today. Second story. Police across the country should be on the lookout for what could be dry runs for a terrorist attack, the TSA advised, after a series of serious, or rather suspicious incidents occurred at U.S. airports. We call it terror cheese. That's right. TSA freak out over some cheese. So they can steal all your stuff, but they can't seem to manage to bust anyone who's actually trying to sneak through guns or allegedly dangerous things. Third and final story published to MediaMonarchy.com a decade ago today. Loose Change producer Corey Rowe arrested. He is also an Iraq and Afghanistan war veteran. He was arrested and handed over to military officials without bail for allegedly deserting the army. Interesting batch of birthdays today on July 25th, like Arthur Balfour, as long as we're talking about Israel in the 1940s. It's also famed painter and illustrator Maxfield Parrish, born on this day. Joseph P. Kennedy Jr., born on this day in 1915. That's right, made all the Kennedy money bootlegging liquor during Prohibition. The late, great Estelle Getty was born on this day, and we just talked recently about MK Ultra. Frank Church was born on this day. It's also singer and actress Annie Ross. It's also Adnan Khashoggi's birthday. It's a really interesting mix of artists and celebrities and crazy powers that shouldn't be. Adnan Khashoggi, Rita Marley, Walter Payton, awesome sculptor and photographer Andy Goldsworthy, Thurston Moore, Ileana Douglas, Matt LeBlanc, and the late and troubled Brad Renfro, all celebrating birthdays today. But our daily DJ set at noon always has a decidedly tech feel on Tech Tuesday, and we'll wet that whistle with our song of the day today. Lune Rouge, or Red Moon, is the latest installment in LA producer and DJ Taki Monster's oeuvre, which mixes modern beats and old-school sensibilities. We're going to listen to a song called Don't Call Me, which also features Malaysian singer Yuna, as Taki Monster gives us our song of the day as we wrap up the Tech Tuesday edition of your Morning Monarchy for Tuesday, July 25th, 2017. I am James Evan Pilato from MediaMonarchy.com, and thanking you so much for listening and taking part. And reminding you, as always, my friends, don't hate the media, become the media. Take care.
This love could go so wrong, and so it did, and you know that I moved on. I never heard from you for so long. Now I'm blowing up, you're blowing up my phone. I know you're trying to see if I still care, that I miss you. No, you never thought that I could be this cool. No, you didn't think that I could be this cruel. I don't mean to be mean, but I'm just gonna ignore you. Don't
You're listening to Media Monarchy with James Evan Pilato. Since 2005, Media Monarchy has covered the real news about politics, health, technology and the occult, all remixed with music and media that matters. Go to MediaMonarchy.com/support and become a monthly subscriber so you can help keep independent, non-commercial, alternative media going and growing. Thanks.